Hi, I'm Dr. Gerald Deas from Health Center, Downstate Medical Center. The Arthur Ashe organization had a wonderful student for science right here at Downstate Medical Center who are doing little research in the communities and things like this, robotics and things. Wonderful things happened here at Downstate. Among those students at that time, there was a young lady we'll get into her background, but she was interested in science. And of course, when everybody looks at a male, he's going to be the scientist, but they don't look at the females who really have done a lot of work in the field of science. So I want to introduce you today to a student that came out of Downstate, get a little background so your children can look at her and say, I can do that also. I want to introduce you to Dr. Scott.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice having you,
Thank
Dr.
you so
Scott,
much.
to be with us today, because it's like old times to see a little girl grow into a full woman now. But let's get back into where you came from.
I was born in Brooklyn at Kings County Hospital in 1982.
Well, that's the same time. What did you say about when I 82?
In 1982, that's when you entered, I believe, public health.
That's right, School of Public Health. That's right. You were just a baby.
I was just a baby.
All right.
And my parents, they had high hopes for me. My mother, she was also from Brooklyn. My father from New Jersey City, and my grandparents were from the South.
Right. What part of the South?
Louisiana and North Carolina.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's where my wife's people are from, North Carolina.
North Carolina?
Yeah,
That's great. That's great.
Good.
But growing up, my mother and my father always told me, whatever it is that you want to do, you can do it.
Yes.
And I remember reading through encyclopedias when I was about 7 or so, and finding out about different diseases and finding out about cancer and just different diseases like that. And I said, I'm going to cure a disease. I'm going to cure cancer.
Right.
And then later on, I was introduced to sciences repeatedly. My mother bought me a microscope. And when I was in high school, I had a great science teacher. Her name was Karen Hutchinson at Boys and Girls High School. And she really made a big impression on me. She really made learning about the body very interesting.
Right.
She was a hard teacher. I said she was a tough lady, but she definitely instilled in me what was needed as far as doing what it takes to succeed and get to the next level. And she's also the person who introduced me to the Arthur Ashe Institute for Urban Health and their program, the Health Science Academy.
Right.
And what that allowed me to do is, me and other group of students, when I was about 15 years old, I believe you have to be a sophomore to get into the program. When I was accepted into the program, every Tuesday we would go to Downstate and we would receive instruction from residents, from different doctors. We would receive anatomy lectures, just different medical school curriculum that we were informed of. And then every Thursday we would be at the school learning different patient-oriented problem solving, learning about different research and different health careers. And that really opened my mind up at a young age to realize what area of the sciences I wanted to go into. So I learned about MDs, I learned about PhDs, and I was fortunate enough to pretty early on learn that I wanted to go down the track of becoming a PhD because I love the problem-solving aspect. I love being in the laboratory, learning about the cells, and just understanding how that relates to the body overall.
Right. Now, well, with doing all of that, when did you play?
When did I play? When I was, I didn't like playing. When I was in school, I was 100% there. My mother, she enforced and just encouraged me as far as education is everything. My grandmother said, education is everything. You can't make it without an education.
Right.
So when I was in school, I was 100% on. When I was home, I played hard. A lot of times I didn't do homework, but I made it for later on. But when I was in school, I gave it 100% effort. And later on, I learned that when you get to college, you have to do your homework. You have to study. You have to put in the hours. I just want to put that out there for anybody young who may be watching.
Surely.
From high school to college is a very different ball game.
Right. But did anything distract you along the way? Would you say could distract even others to their full potential?
Oh, absolutely. There's plenty of distractions. And I was fortunate in that I was raised in a sheltered environment. And I put my what mattered to me most on what my family thought was important, which was education.
Right.
Sometimes I had to avoid doing things with my friends, like whether it be cutting school or going to, you know, a certain party.
Really?
I had to avoid those things. And, you know, it was more so about at a young age really figuring out what it is that I wanted and realizing that I wasn't going to let anything deter me from that.
Right.
And we also had a really good principal in my high school at the time, and he was very much key on getting you to focus on education.
And what high school was that?
Boys and Girls High School.
Go ahead with your.
So yes, there were opportunities for distractions. It's just that I had a very strong focus, and I knew that I had to focus in order to get what it is that I wanted.
Yes.
And I had a good support system. You
Right.
know, I had a good support system. You know, I had family who said that you can do it. I had people, you know, later on, even in college, there can be distractions. My first year of college, I was basically on academic probation because I didn't know what to do when I got there.
Yeah, sure.
I figured
You weren't counseled?
I figured I could do every activity that I did in high school and
Yeah.
study for 2 hours for a chemistry exam and somehow pass. It didn't work, you know. And I quickly learned the next semester, I think the following semester I got a 4.0 because I put that much time into studying. I realized, okay, I went from no study to, you know, realizing like if I'm going to be here. My mother said, look, you know, if you don't want to do the biology thing, if you can't do it, you know, just, you know, it's all right, you could change your degree. And I said, no, I'm going to do it.
That's wonderful,
I said,
yeah.
No, you know, I'm definitely interested in biology. I'm going to do it. So I just put the time in. It took, you know, organic chemistry, it took hours and hours
Oh, yeah.
of being in the library and studying, you
Yeah,
know, in order
right.
to get ahead. And especially for me because coming from, you know, a high school in the inner city,
Yes.
you don't receive the same type of, you know, exposure to things that maybe other private schools or other institutions may.
Surely.
You know, so I had to play catch up. You know,
Yeah.
I definitely had to spend more time in the library, more time with tutors, you know, in order to be able to compete because I was determined. You know,
Yes.
I would say in order to be in the sciences, I would say first understand how it relates to your life.
Yes.
You know, when you understand the biology and how it relates to your everyday life, then you have a passion for it.
Yeah.
Once you have a passion for it, you can be relentless about pursuing your goals. I majored in biology, but I minored in art.
Yes.
You know, so I tried to keep going in graduate school. I studied molecular and cellular biology, but I also took salsa classes and did performances. You know,
Yeah.
so I tried to have the balance because I realized that if I didn't have some type of balance, I could burn out. You know?
Sure, of
So-
course. You know, because you can't be that severe on children
Yeah.
to say you can't go out and play today. You know, do your homework. You
Yes.
know, there has to be a reason to do that homework well, so you could go out to play.
Yeah.
You know, and so this is
But what you're talking about, though, I think is important. You're talking about having like a foundation as you go along the way, and that is key. For me, doing the Arthur Ashe Health Science Academy, you know, that really helps me to expand my interest in the sciences.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need really to move on and succeed at, especially for young minorities. We need these things like you going to the dentist to get that type of education and mentorship, me going to the program, the Arthur Ashe Health Science Academy.
Sure.
Then in college, there was a Binghamton Success Program. There was the McNair Scholars Program that helps minorities to basically enter
Sure.
and obtain their PhDs, enter
Right.
graduate programs and obtain their PhDs.
Yes.
And that helped to prepare me for graduate school.
Yeah.
You know, after obtaining my PhD, I
Where did you get your PhD from?
I obtained my PhD from SUNY Downstate Medical Center,
Right where you're sitting at now.
right where I'm sitting at
when,
right now.
when you were a little girl, you came right in this
When
kind
I
of.
was just 15 years old,
You
you
had
know, I was here, and I didn't know that I would be here in this capacity doing research in this institution.
Isn't that wonderful? Yeah.
But it's I feel that it's meant to be. I feel
Yeah.
that it's meant to be. I mean, having been born just across the street, you know, from this hospital.
Kings County Hospital.
Kings County Hospital.
Hey, now.
Yes.
Well, you know, let me tell you about Kings County Hospital. You were in one of the best hospitals for obstetrics. They had one of the best, Dr. Hellman, Lewis Hellman. He was the best OB person, gynecologist you ever want to have, came from Johns Hopkins. And he trained some good black gynecologists and so forth. And he was a wonderful teacher, too. That whole department, I almost went into that department myself because it was so exact to see life coming out of a at birth. You know, that fascinated me to be able to. I always had large hands, and people always said, "Well, you know, you have such a large hands. Why do you want to be a surgeon and so forth?" But they didn't realize when that baby came out, I could take one hand and pull the whole hand. I didn't have to use two hands. I could hold the abdomen and adjust my palm.
Right.
Here, take it now.
You're natural.
Very naturally. But all these things play a little role in your life, you know. It's was there any other activities that you felt have a lot of fun at? Did you have a lot of fun to a certain degree in anything?
You know, I think that
I hate to use that word fun.
Fun is important. I mean, at different stages, you know, like I said, in high school, there was always, you know, some fun. Even doing the Arthur program, it was fun because you were learning, but you were still with your peers,
yes,
you know, so
right,
you always found a way to you know, find something interesting or funny. You know, maybe you're looking in a medical book and then you see something weird, like, what's this, you know?
Yeah, sure.
So just the bonding activities track was fun, with traveling. You know, I think that you can find so many different ways. I mean, I think it's important too, though, for adults to keep that in mind. You know.
Now, do you go back to Boys and Girls High sometime just to talk to the young people?
I have. I've gone back for Career Day to speak to them and you know, just let them know about, you know, what they need to do in order to get on the path of sciences and to succeed in general. You know.
Right. Sure.
So just basically the key principles for success. I mean, the things that I can tell people as for science are things I can tell people for almost any career. I think that is key for young students to know that if there's any area that you're interested in, either try to find a program to get in that's related to it, or find a mentor who can help to educate you on it. Get started early, because especially as minority students, we are not in a community that's surrounded with people like that. We are often behind. So we need to do everything that we can as early as possible to give ourselves a head start.
Right. Now, being a doctor, you're not a medical doctor, but you're a PhD doctor.
Yes.
In a sense. Did you ever think of being a medical doctor, or was that in the back of your mind?
You know, I did for a while. I thought about getting an MD, PhD, but then I thought about my personability, and I feel that with MDs, you have to put on, and this isn't always the case, but here's what I feel that it should be. As an MD, you're performing a service to the community, to the people around you, and you should put your best face forward. And people may think that I'm a people person, and I do come across that way, but I want it to always be from my heart. If I'm dealing with somebody, I always want to give them the best of me. And you have to do that. I feel like you should do that. It is your duty to do that as an MD.
Surely.
And I prefer to just be able to work behind the scenes, you know, discuss, you know, do the problem solving behind the scenes, kind of just learning that way, try to figure out something that I can give to the MDs to then deliver. You know,
there you go.
Patients, yes.
Well, now, as far as being a scientist and delivering, here it is now. How long did it take you, and maybe just a little brief background of being a molecular chemist? You know, we always deal with the body, but you're dealing with the chemistry of that body, or what's happening.
Right. So, let's see. To become a molecular and cellular biologist, chemistry is all a part of that. It took me about 5.5 years to obtain my PhD. It could take some people longer, some people a little shorter, but I think that's a good amount of time to be able to get it. And for some people say, oh my gosh, that's so long. You do 4 years of college, and then you want to do another 5.5 years of school. And you know, I felt the same way. So, but what happened is somebody made a really good point. They said, you know, people spend their whole lives doing careers that they don't really enjoy. So if you have to spend 10 years in order to be able to do something that you love, then it's no time at all. You know, and then once I thought about it like that, then I said, okay, you know, I'm just learning, and this is all going to help me to be able to ultimately do research that I want to do, you know, under my terms and my conditions.
All right. But was there any along the way distractions that you said, oh, I like to just have a good time sometime? Or did you have a good time sometime?
So I did have a good time sometime. I made sure that, you know, whether it's trying to go to the movies, whether it's, you know, going out to dinner, or at the time, or whether it was going, you know, to a concert,
Right.
doing salsa dancing. I tried to make time for it, when the pressure let up. The first 2 years of graduate school were
Yes.
really tough, so there wasn't much going on but studying there.
Right.
But once I was in a laboratory and I was doing research and I was kind of in the flow of things, I had more time to have a fun life,
Yeah.
a fun outside of the laboratory.
No,
Yes.
but that's just wonderful for young people to see this,
Yes.
that you don't have to give up everything.
Yes, you
but
don't
you
have to
can't
give up
go
everything.
to extremes and think a good time is all you have.
Yeah.
You have to take that one O out of good, and it becomes God. You have to have some God time. Did you have any God time?
Did I have any God time? I meditated on a regular basis. That's I feel like meditation is your time to commune with God. You can,
Yeah.
if you believe in it, whether you call it God, you call it a
Allah.
higher self, you call
Sure.
it your greater intellect, whatever you want to refer to it as, just my inner wisdom, that's the time. Meditation is a time to just center yourself, allow yourself to just breathe and not necessarily have your mind going off in 20 different directions. I feel like meditation is really important. I think there was a study done recently where they showed that they introduced young students who were delinquent to meditating 20 minutes a day at the beginning of the day, and they found that this school that had all of these different issues as far as delinquency, those issues went basically away.
Yeah.
That's the power of meditation. I feel that it's extremely important to have that, whether you want to call it a faith,
Yeah, faith,
or
surely.
just some type of something that you can feel close to, that goes beyond words.
Well, like hypnosis, for example. I think medicine missed the whole point of not allowing doctors to learn hypnosis. Because when you talk about the mind, how you can take and talk to a person a certain amount of time and then make them get up and do certain things that they didn't anticipate to do.
That
to me.
That is key. I mean, me as a scientist, I feel that we know about the placebo effect.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel that your health really starts up here first.
Yeah.
Your mental health is everything. And they've shown that there are doctors who told the patients, you only have, 2 weeks to live. And then the patients, die after 2 weeks because they said that the psychosomatic effect is that strong.
That's
when you
right.
find out sometimes in those cases, those patients could have lived longer. That something could have been done, but
Surely.
because that belief was so strong, it didn't lend itself into what happened to them biologically.
I practiced out of my home in Queens for 40 straight years. And I lived upstairs with 3 children, and my wife and I worked downstairs, but my wife worked outside and would come home from work and be my receptionist at the same time and things like this. So I was raising children out of the same home. In fact, sometimes they'd be running across the floor and I'd have to leave the office, say, just a moment, I have to take care of some business, and run up the stairs. They would hide under the couch and things like that.
I mean, I've heard that there's a new type of regimen being implemented with DISRIP where now they're going to have a rating for doctors where the patients get to rate them based on how they feel that the doctor did. And I think that's a good thing because, as I told you, one of the reasons I didn't become an MD is because I feel that it's your duty as an MD to really give that compassion,
Sure.
and that attention to your patients on a regular basis despite what it is that you feel.
Oh,
And I
sure.
think that now, myself, having seen it, myself and other family members, what we've experienced is a lot of times there's a disconnect between the
yeah.
doctor and the patient.
Oh, sure.
What the type of service that you offer is a rare jewel.
Yeah,
A lot of times
surely.
people just go in there, okay, you have this, you have that,
Yeah,
take this
right.
medication, take this
Oh,
prescription,
terrible.
and and that's it.
That's it,
A lot of
surely.
people feel even afraid to ask their doctors questions.
I always tell a patient, when you're going to see a doctor for the first time, have a list of questions you want to ask the doctor. And if the doctor mentions anything about a test, ask them what it involves, or what the test involves, rather than saying, oh, yeah, well, here's a prescription, go to this laboratory. But that's so cold when you think about it, But if you know why you're going to the laboratory, or you're going for that x-ray, it's very important for the patient to feel at ease. I used to have a thing called At Ease with Deas. My name is Deas, D-E-A-S, or when I wanted somebody to take some vitamin D. Oh, it's a very important vitamin in your diet, I used to tell them, I don't like vitamin D because my name is Deas, or I even got a D in conduct when I was in public school. I wasn't not an angel in public school. I used to laugh a lot. I used to get a D in conduct for laughing a lot. In school, that's right. And my mother would actually come up and the teacher said, well, he laughs and things. And so, when I was doing my work and everything, but everybody could hold a straight face, but I could not hold a straight face.
So you were laughing and I was talking a lot.
You talk?
Yep, I was always talking. They were like...
And they give you a conduct, bad conduct
talk too much in class.
Yeah, but that's life, you know. But getting back to Downstate now, you got your doctorate degree. What was that, what were you studying during your doctorate?
So at that time, I was studying multiple myeloma, which is a cancer of the bone marrow.
Yes.
And I was doing a translational research where we obtained bone marrow samples from different patients.
Right.
We grew them up in culture in a laboratory.
Okay.
And then we took those cells, we then injected them into mice in order to determine whether these cells had the ability to form cancer. So we were looking for cancer-initiating cells at that time.
Oh, that's wonderful!
Yes.
And then you
Or
would
cancer
harvest.
stem cells.
You would harvest those.
We would harvest those, and we would see if they had the ability to produce different cell surface markers
Yeah.
that correlated with that specific cancer.
Well, that you
Yes.
know, that's magnificent. I mean, that was heavy stuff for a young person like yourself to
Yes.
get on board with that
And
kind
it was
of idea.
interesting to me, and I mean that's, you know, what I feel is important. You know, to me, I had done work when I was younger in an insurance brokerage company.
Yeah.
And I've worked, you know, doing paperwork and whatnot, so I knew what that was like.
Right.
To me, research was a whole different world. I got to see cells, you know, under a
Cell-
microscope.
yeah, boy.
You know, I can relate that to the body.
That's
you know? I'm
right.
like, this is what relates to me. Okay, so I have, you know, I know somebody down the block who has cancer.
Sure.
You know, so this is a way that I may be able to combat that. You know,
That's
this is a
right.
way that could solve this problem. So for
Sure.
me, it was very fascinating. And that's really what, so throughout my program, some people are like, you know, you're just doing this research for me.
Yes.
I was happy because I was doing research that I could apply to, you know, and possibly help other people.
Oh yeah, well, you know, I got involved with the great scientist Linus Pauling, who is the master of vitamin C, and vitamin C. People have no idea the importance of vitamin C on integrity of the blood vessels and everything like this. And still today, I take my vitamin C, you know, take vitamin C and C, you know, because we need these micronutrients.
Yes.
These nutrients, all that we take in our foods, that can be positive or negative.
You know, and this is another area for me that I'm very passionate about, and would like to have done some research on, and would like to do even more. The same way that you did the research on Argo starch and found that it had the ability to bind different iron, you know, and minerals and cause anemia.
Right.
There are other factors in our food that could do the same thing, that have been found to be doing the same thing. That we are exposed to on a regular basis. You know, these are things that, you know, really we need to investigate. We need research on. You know, some things that can be beneficial for one group of people can be detrimental to another group of people, especially as ethnicity is concerned. There have been studies back in the 80s showing that different minorities respond very differently to their Caucasian counterparts when it comes to pharmaceutical drugs.
Definitely. They don't respond to the same hypertensive drugs. You know, the first drug in 1955 was hydrochlorothiazide, which was a diuretic, you know.
Yes.
Now, it brought down the blood pressure, but at the same time it lost potassium and all the other things in your body that's needed for a healthy body. So you just couldn't go and say, well, here's some hydrochlorothiazide, here's some, or a water pill, not realizing that water coming out of that body has all these nutrients and things in it. And, oh, you're lacking potassium. That's what you're losing potassium. That's why you got muscle cramps and things like this and so forth. So where there's an action, there's a reaction. You just can't give everybody a drug and say, and especially with different ethnic groups, where their DNA is different. You know, that DNA, desoxyribonucleic acid as such, people don't understand that DNA. I made another thing for DNA. It says DNA. Don't deny Negro people anything. Because our chemistries are complex.
Chemistry is definitely complex, and
Africa without DNA.
And it doesn't just pertain to the drugs. It pertains to our diet and our lifestyle.
Oh, sure.
You know, what are we eating today?
That's
you know, a lot of
right.
people are eating, you know, the fast foods and whatnot.
Oh,
You know,
man.
the fast foods are doing a lot to us. Not only are they not giving us the nutrients that we need to be able to regenerate our bodies, allow
Sure.
cellular regeneration,
Right.
but the other thing that's happening with that is that it's, and many times can be stripping us of the nutrients that we need.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
so when you look at a lot of the diseases that we see today, some of these diseases are coming from nutritional deficiencies.
Sure,
You
sure.
know, and I think that's something that we really need to be aware of, especially for our children. You know, it's no wonder, you know, that we're seeing the rates of diabetes rising in children, you know, when you see what they're exposed to at a young age. You
Listen.
know, when I was growing up, you know, I ate a lot of fast food, but I could still get a home-cooked meal.
Home-cooked meal,
You
sure.
know, nowadays, you know, children aren't necessarily getting that. All they're getting is fast food. All they're getting is Chinese food. All they're getting is the McDonald's. They're
Yeah.
not getting any sorts of nutrients, so their bodies cannot heal themselves.
Well, Dr. Scott, it's been too short a time. It's too short a time, but it's been a good time
It has.
to have you on the program, to have folks look at you, this young doctor, got a degree in molecular chemistry and grown like this, and to have you on the show and see you from a little girl walking around downstate and now a doctor. We wish you the best.
Thank you so much, Dr.
Yeah.
Deas. I really appreciate
So
being
you
here
folks
today.
out there, I hope you heard the message. Let the kids have a good time, but take a little off the good and give them more time, and you might have yourself a good child. We'll see you the next time.